The rain came out of nowhere that night. 1 minute the road was clear. The next minute it looked like a mirror. Headlights and puddles shone and moved. My hands held the wheel tight. I had worked for 2 years to buy that old gray Honda. It was not perfect. It was tired. But it was mine. I had paid for it with long nights at the diner, sweeping floors after closing, and saving every little coin I could find. I was driving home. The radio was quiet. My head hurt from being tired. Then a truck rushed in front of me. Its tail lights flashed. The truck slid like it had lost its shoes. Before I could do anything, the truck hit my car hard. The sound was loud, metal smashed, glass broke. My body moved with the crash. The airbag popped in my face. My head hit something. Pain felt like a bell ringing in my skull. The car steamed and hissed in the cold night air. My hands shook. I reached for my phone. My fingers were wet. The screen had red on it. I touched the phone and felt the warm trickle of blood on my forehead. I called my dad first. I thought he would come. I thought he would tell me he loved me. I thought he would help. "Dad," I said when he answered. "It's me. I'm in a crash. I'm on 5th and Maple. Please. I need help. I'm bleeding." He sounded annoyed. "Bleeding? What do you want me to do about it?" he said. His voice was loud, like a TV set on the wrong station. "You always make everything so dramatic." "Dad, I can't move my leg," I whispered. "Please. Figure it out," he said. "I don't have time. Chloe has a manicure tonight. I promised I'd take her. That's more important than you crying on the street." Then the line went quiet. I looked at the phone, and the rain felt colder. My own father had chosen nail polish over my blood. A passing couple stopped their car. They ran to me with blankets. The woman called an ambulance. "Stay awake," she said. Her hand held mine. The sirens came and grew louder. My chest felt heavy. I listened to her voice and to the beeps of the machines when they put me in the ambulance. The strangers stayed. When the ambulance doors closed, I knew 2 things. First, I was alive because strangers cared. Second, something in me had changed. A small part of me that once wanted to be loved by them had died in the rain. At the hospital they stitched my forehead. They wrapped my ribs and gave my leg a heavy brace. No one from my family came. No one sat quietly in the corner while I was afraid. While I waited, a nurse's phone buzzed. I saw a picture of Chloe smiling with her nails done. The caption said something like "Daddy-daughter night." My dad was in the photo, looking proud. My stomach felt empty. I thought of the ambulance lights and the woman's warm hand. I thought of my father's empty voice and the sound of the rain. That night I stopped being their daughter inside my heart. That was the night I stopped asking for their love. 2 days later the hospital let me go home. My head had stitches. My ribs were sore. My leg made a loud, plastic sound when I moved. I could not walk right. When the nurse asked who would pick me up, my fingers shook and I gave my father's number, even though a small voice told me not to. He did not answer. A taxi took me home. Each bump made my ribs scream. When I opened the front door, I smelled nail polish and takeout. Laughter floated from the living room. Dad was on the couch with the remote. Chloe sat beside him, holding up her bright nails for everyone to see. Mom snapped pictures for her phone. "Back already?" Dad said, not even turning down the TV. "You look like roadkill," Chloe said, like it was funny. Mom wrinkled her nose. "Couldn't you have cleaned up first? You'll make the couch dirty." My plastic bag of hospital papers swung at my side. My hands trembled. "I was in a hospital," I said. "While you were doing this." Dad barely looked at me. And you lived, he said. Don't make everything about you. The words cut deeper than any scar. I stood there in the doorway and felt strange. I walked past them slowly. Every step hurt. I wanted to scream. I wanted them to see how much it hurt to be left alone. Instead, I went to my room and sat with a small notebook I always kept by my bed. It had grocery lists and bus routes and small things I never threw away. People thought I was small and weak. They thought I would always be who they wanted me to be, the quiet girl who took care of the bills, who did not complain, who never made waves. They did not see me watching. They did not see me listening. I took the notebook out and I began to write. At first I wrote things that made me feel safe. I wrote dates. I wrote bills they ignored. I wrote the time Chloe would go to the salon. I wrote the day my father's poker game happened. I wrote the names of the people who always sat at the small table on Sunday. I wrote down small things. Receipts, appointment cards, little pieces of evidence that showed how they lived. They threw away the things they did not want to see. They left appointment cards on the counter. They laughed loudly at brunch. They left receipts in their pockets. I started to collect these things slowly. I put them in my notebook. I copied numbers and times in red ink. I learned where they were weak. I learned what they could not live without. At night I practiced being quiet. When they mocked me, I smiled small. When Chloe bragged, I nodded. When Dad asked for beer, I brought it like nothing had happened. I let them believe I was broken. But inside, I made a plan. The plan was not to make them leave their house. The plan was not to hurt them with words. The plan was to take away the things they loved until they had to come back to me with their hat in their hands. A week after I came home, Chloe walked into my room and picked up my phone. She laughed at me. No one texted you, she said. She tossed the phone back on the bed. Then she saw my notebook. What's this, she sneered. A diary? That's for losers. I grabbed it back from her. None of your business, I said quietly. She laughed and said, you think you're clever, writing little notes? No one cares about you. You could die in the street and Dad would still take me to brunch. Her voice was sharp like glass. I felt the words, but I did not cry. I felt cold and I felt ready. That night, with the lamp on, I wrote one line across the top of my notebook in big letters, make them beg for what they took for granted. When my stitches healed and the scar on my forehead was thin, I tied my hair back and said to myself, this is where it turns. I stopped asking for love. I started to plan small moves. The moves were the kind that do not look like revenge at first. They were the kind that slowly take away the little comforts the family could not live without. Chloe loved her Thursday manicure. She shone like she had jewels on her fingers. She booked the same day every week. One Thursday while she slept, I slipped into her bag and took the appointment card. I called the salon and pretended I was her. I canceled the appointment. I gave them a new number, one I had set up. The next week Chloe arrived all proud and beautiful and the salon ladies told her there was no record of her name. She tried to stay calm, then started yelling. People sat and watched. Her pretty nails chipped from biting. She stormed home and cried to Dad. They humiliated me, she said. Dad shrugged. Figure it out, he said, like he always did. Dad's pride lived in his poker night. He bragged like a king after every game. So I did something small in his study. I took his deck of cards and made tiny changes. I shaved the corners of a few cards so they would bend and look odd to a player. The changes were subtle. That Saturday his friends called him a cheater. He came home angry and red-faced, unsure who to trust. After that his poker friends left his phone calls unanswered. Mom's big thing was Sunday brunch. She loved to sit with other women from church and look like she had the perfect family. One Sunday early in the morning I swapped her purse with one that looked the same. The purse I left for her had old bills and unpaid notices inside. When she reached into the bag at brunch, the papers spilled out. The women looked at the bills and at her face. Mom's smile broke. She stammered and tried to explain. Later she came home shaking and angry. The people she wanted to be proud of did not look at her the same way again. Each small move was like a pebble dropped into water. The ripples grew. They could not understand why the world around them was changing. Chloe's hair did not look the same, Dad's friends were not calling, Mom's image cracked. They did not know how or why. They only knew the safe things they had were gone. 2 weeks later they came to me. Their voices were small. Dad pulled me into the hall one night. "You have always been good with numbers," he said, not like a father, but like a man asking a favor. "Help me get back in the game." "They won't let me in." Mom followed with her face wet. "Talk to my friends," she begged. "Help me fix this." Chloe banged her chipped nails against the table. "Book me a new appointment," she demanded. "I can't show my face like this." They pleaded in different ways. The people who left me in the rain now wanted me to fix their trouble. Their tone had changed from cruel to humble. I listened and I felt the rain that had soaked me that night. I felt how they left me with the taste of blood on my lips. I opened my notebook and put it on the counter. "Do you remember this?" I asked, my voice steady. I pointed to lines where I had written their names, their small cruel jokes, their careless acts. "This is what you did. This is what you gave me." They looked at the paper, then at each other. They had never read the list. They had never sat in the small room where I had written down the tiny things that mattered to them. They felt the weight of what they had done. Now they were the ones who needed help. I did not shout. I did not throw things. I simply said, "You left me bleeding on the street. You did not come when I called. You chose a manicure instead of my blood. Now you want me to fix your pride." Silence fell. The house felt very big and empty. I picked up my notebook and walked away. My brace made a clicking sound on the floor. I walked into the small kitchen and reached for a glass. A small hand slipped into mine. A child from the building who had watched quietly sometimes, who liked my laugh and wanted me to be okay. The little fingers held mine like warm sunshine. I turned and looked back at them. My family's voices rose, but now they were not cruel. They were pleading. They were asking. That felt different. I had wanted them to feel tiny and helpless like I had felt. I had wanted them to remember. But as I walked, something else happened inside me. The pleasure of taking away the things they loved was sharp. It felt like a flame that warmed me first, then burned. In the quiet that followed, I could hear my own heart. I could hear something small but strong. I was not sure if I wanted them back the way they had been. I was not sure I wanted to be the one they called only for their needs. In the days after they asked me for help, I did help them a little. I fixed small things they could not fix alone. I showed Dad a new group of people who liked to play cards for fun. I arranged a small appointment at a salon that would be kind to Chloe. I sat with Mom when she needed someone to speak to her brunch friends. But I did these things on my terms. I did them because I wanted to, not because they had the right to take from me and expect me to fix it. The changes I made in their lives did not bring back the old hugs. They did not make my father say the words I had wanted in his car that night. They did not make my mother cry and say she was sorry. But they changed the balance of our home. The house was quieter in a new way. There was more care in the small things. When Chloe bumped her foot, she no longer laughed at me. When Dad had a bad night, he called someone who listened, not me. The town started to notice my calm. People at the diner who had always smiled at me now asked me about my scar and my brace with kind eyes. The couple who had stopped to help me the night of the crash became friends. A stranger knitted me a warm scarf in winter. The small hand that held mine at the kitchen table kept coming back. The child would bring me art and tell me stories from the day. That little presence made my mornings better. Over time I learned something important. Taking away the things they loved had made them come to me. But it did not fix my loneliness. What fixed my loneliness was something I built for myself, quietly. I started to save more. I studied at night. I filled my notebook not just with their small faults, but with plans for me. I wrote down places I wanted to go. I wrote down the classes I would take. I wrote down the people who were kind to me. I wrote down small steps I could take to make my life steady and strong. One winter afternoon I sat with the notebook and looked at the writing that used to be filled with anger. The paper now had two kinds of ink, red ink for the list of things I used to keep against them, and blue ink where I had written the places I wanted to go. I flipped through the pages and felt both cold and warm. I had used my plan to make them beg. That felt like justice. But there was a deeper thing growing in me, the plan for my own life. I started working more hours at the diner, but this time not just to save money. I worked to meet people. I read books in the break room. I learned to fix small kitchen machines. I took a class on basic accounting at the community center. Sometimes I was tired. Sometimes my ribs hurt. But I kept going. Slowly, new things came to me. A small job at another restaurant offered me better hours. A woman from the church invited me to a sewing group. I learned to sew a neat line on cloth in a way that was like putting my story together, stitch by stitch. The small hand that held mine grew a little older and told me about school. I began to help the child with homework sometimes. Those evenings felt like the world was right for a little while. As time moved, my family changed too. They learned to be careful when they spoke about me. They did not always say sorry, but they watched me differently. Chloe stopped bragging about nails. Dad went to cards and came back to the living room quieter. Mom kept her purse closed and her papers private. I did not forgive them all at once. Forgiveness is not a switch you flip. It is a slow opening like the first warm day in spring. But I learned to put down the notebook one page at a time. I learned to use the pages for my small dreams. One day I walked down Maple Street. The place where the crash had happened felt smaller than the night I had been hit. The rain that once soaked me now sounded like normal rain on the roof. I folded the scarf someone had knitted and held it. A woman with a stroller smiled at me. I smiled back. I had taken something from my family that they once took from me, the power to ignore me. I had shown them what it felt like to watch someone bleed and not come close. I had shown myself that I could stand when the world had left me on the hard ground. But I also found something else. I found a quiet strength that was not about making them pay. It was about building something that would keep me safe. I learned to ask for help from strangers and to accept it. I learned to say no when someone tried to take more than they gave me. I learned to hold a small hand that trusted me and to be the person who showed up. At night, when I sit with the lamp and my notebook, I sometimes write letters that I do not send. I write to the girl I used to be, who wanted their love so badly she would have walked through the rain again. I tell her the truth. I tell her she is brave. I tell her that she did the right thing to learn to protect herself. I tell her that she will build a life where people will come if she calls, not because she begs them, but because she has become someone worth trusting. The scar on my forehead is a thin line now. Sometimes I forget it is there. Sometimes I touch it with my fingertip and think of the night it happened and the woman who held my hand in the rain. I remember the ambulance lights and the strangers who stayed. I remember the sound of the rain on the hood of my old car. I remember the warm, small hand that learned to trust me. I do not want revenge like a long dark river that never ends. I want to live. I want to be warm on cold nights. I want to laugh with people who mean what they say. I want the little child in the building to grow into someone who knows how to be kind. I want to have a home that is more than a place for nails and poker games. I want a life where I can look at my notebook and smile at the pages where I wrote down the places I wanted to go. When my family asked me for help, I had a choice. I could have shut the door and never come back. I could have made them beg forever. I chose to help, a little. But I chose it on my terms. I chose to hold my hand out when I wanted to. I chose to build a life where help came both ways. Now, when children in the neighborhood scrape their knees, they run to me first. They know I will stay. They know I will hold their small hands and not check my phone. I learned to be the person I wanted when the rain began. Someone who comes, someone who cares, someone who does not leave. The notebook has new pages now. On the left side there are small lists of things I do not want to forget, to save money, to take classes, to call the couple who stopped by that night. On the right side there are small plans, a trip to the sea someday, a class in sewing, a small apartment of my own. Sometimes I open the book and see the old red ink. The red lines are not there to punish anyone anymore. They are there as memory. They are there to remind me that I can stand up. The rain will come again one day. It always does. But now I know how to hold the wheel steady. Now I know how to reach for the phone and who to call. Now I know how to make my home warm in other ways. I still feel sad sometimes. I still remember the sting of Dad's voice and Chloe's laugh. Those memories do not go away. But they do not control me anymore. I am not the girl on Maple Street who called for help and was left. I am the woman who got up. If someone asks me now, did you get revenge? I would say, yes, if you mean I made them feel the small fear of losing nice things. But I would also say, no, if you mean I kept myself small and cold forever. My real change was not a trick to make them cry. My real change was learning to be brave for myself and small others. So when I walk down the street and the rain comes, I do not think of the crash only. I think of the woman who took my hand and the little child who trusted me. I think of the notebook and the plans I wrote with blue ink. I think of the day I will see the sea. I still keep the notebook close. I still write. But the pages are full of more than lists meant to punish. They are full of hope. They are full of plans. They are full of small steps to a life I can be proud of. That is my story. I was once the girl who called in the rain and did not matter enough. Now I am the woman who calls when it matters, who answers when others call, and who makes room for kindness. The rain will wash the road clean again. Please like and subscribe for more videos, also comment where you're watching from.